Good morning, everyone. How's it going? What's missing? A car. Do you know what that means, Fernando?
It's 6:30.
Close. It means this is gonna be a from the install bay. So stay tuned for a from the install bay video. So the other day on the live show, we had someone ask about using a digital multimeter to set the gains on an amplifier. Right. And I was like, yeah, there's a great video by somebody else and go check that out because we don't have one. And I was like, well, why don't we have one?
Let's make one.
There is a great one made by Sonic Electronics that we referred them to. It's a wonderful video. We thought we'd take it a little step further. And how are we gonna do that, you ask? Let's head to the bench and I'll show you. That's with this guy right here. This is the Liumy. This is a digital multimeter slash oscilloscope. What does that mean? Well, we're gonna be able to see the voltage output as well as what that signal looks like. And we can see when it's clipping. But before we get to all that, let's talk about what else we got going on here. So for a test amplifier, we're using the Audio Control ACM 4.300. This is a 4x50 watt amplifier at 4 ohms. That's important. We also have our test rig Kenwood CD DVD player set up right here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a 1000 hertz test tone at -5 dB. We're not gonna play a 0 dB track because none of us listen to anything at 0 dB. You're not listening to the same type of music all the time. There's gonna be some variations, so we wanna make sure there's some play there. You could do -10 dB if you want a lot of play. We're gonna stick with 5 for this. Now the test track that we're gonna use is from the SMD DD1 test disc. Now we're not using that today because we wanna show that you can do it all with the Liumy. You can buy his test tracks on iTunes, or you can find anywhere that has a 1000 hertz test tone, 0, -5, -10. They might even have them on kicker.com, just saying. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out the mathematical equation that's gonna allow us to figure out how much AC voltage this has to put out 50 watts at 4 ohms. And to do that, we're gonna grab this guy right here. This is the MECP study guide for the basic exam. This is another thing you guys ask us about all the time. Is this relevant? Well, for this it is. So we've gone ahead and earmarked the page that has our cool ohms law on it, but they make it a little bit easier in here, and what we want to find out is voltage. So we're going to come over here. There's 3 options for voltage, and coming across here is the first one is the one we're going to need, because we know the power, that's going to be 50 watts, and we know the resistance, which is 4 ohms. Knowing those two will get us voltage. So we need to get the square root of power times resistance. That'll give us voltage. So we'll go ahead and grab our calculator app on our phone, and we'll multiply 50 times 4, and then we'll go ahead and rotate our phone. We'll come over here and we'll tap square root. So that's telling us we're gonna need 14.4 volts AC coming out of the amplifier, and that's gonna give us 50 watts. Now the one thing you wanna know is where your radio is gonna distort at. If you don't know that, well, you could use this using what we're gonna show you here to figure that out. Or just pick a spot on your radio dial, say about 7/8 or 3/4 of the way up. Usually if you're dealing with a factory radio, it's gonna be somewhere in that range. If you're dealing with an aftermarket radio, CD is the cleanest signal. If you're using a phone or something like that, more than likely you will be able to turn it all up. So for example, this is a Kenwood. We know we have a perfectly clean signal all the way up with the volume knob. If this was a Pioneer, 38 is the maximum amount you can get out of the CD player. If you're using a phone, you can turn it all the way up because there is a volume differential between the CD and the phone. Now with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and play our test track. And what we're going for here is for this to say 14.4 on it as we turn up our gain. Wow, we actually nailed it. So we have a nice clean signal right here. We have the output voltage. Now this should be at 50 watts at 4 ohms. But we need to know for sure. I mean, yes, this math is sound, but wouldn't it be great if we could just be 100%? Well, we can. So go ahead and remove our Liumy. We'll bring in the AMM1, which is the portable amp dyno. Now what this is gonna do is this is gonna tell us how much power it's putting out. Now, in order to do that, we need this guy right here. This is a load resistor, so this is a 4 ohm load resistor. It doesn't vary, it stays a constant 4 ohms. So we're only gonna do this for a brief second, but this is gonna fool the amplifier into thinking that there's a speaker connected to it. Now we'll play the same test track. and we get 43 watts out of the amplifier. So at this point you might be thinking, wait a minute, what the heck? You gotta remember, you have a lot of things to take in consideration here. You have amplifier efficiency, you have the resistance of the load resistor that is on the amplifier, so there are gonna be some variations of power out. But the math was right, and it was close to 50 watts. It's not bad. You might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, if I have an oscilloscope, can I just use that and look for the clip or the distortion? The answer would be yes. So let's go ahead, we're gonna use the Liumy and we're gonna see if we can see the distortion ripple with the little display screen. Now we'll go ahead and start with it back at the 14 volts like we had it with our math, and we'll come over here and we'll start turning the gain up. I wanna see what this is gonna look like bad, because if I've never seen it before, so I'm just gonna turn the gain up way too high and really mess up my signal. As you can see, it's looking pretty bad. So we'll turn it back some. Give it a second so that the signal will kind of flatten itself back out. And that looks pretty good. That almost looks identical to what it looked like when we were at 14 volts. But now we're at 18 volts. So I wonder what kind of power we're getting now. Let's go ahead and plug back in the dyno and see what kind of power we're getting just using the scope. So now we're getting 76 watts of output. That's not bad. So that gives us about 20 more watts with the combination of finding out with the math about where we should be and then using the scope to maximize that. The nice thing about the audio control is that underneath this piece of tape here, they have the maximize light, which is their built-in distortion detector. I covered it up because I didn't want it to affect our output with the Liumy. So now what we can do is we can actually go back, peel this guy off, and see how close it is to using math and oscilloscope. Ooh, it's pretty close. I mean, we're getting just a little turn here. We'll back it down to where the light comes off, and we'll go ahead and see what we're getting out of this. Same 76. And the light's on. So with a little Liumy and a little bit of math, we've managed to set this amplifier, maximize its amount of output, and keep the amount of distortion to a bare minimum. Alright guys, so there you go. We hope that was helpful as always. Fernando, if you please.
Alright, if you like this video, please subscribe, share, like. You know where you find us. Facebook, Instagram, and here on YouTube.
You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.